Hello all, this is Devi Prasad. I'm going to explain in this video about Exchange message processing in HANA Cloud Integration tool. So as we seen in SAP PI and XI, so message flows as a SOAP message which has SOAP header as well as SOAP body and also attachments in the as a SOAP message. But in this case, message flows as a Exchange message. That means every message has one exchange ID and exception properties, MEP, as well as in message and out message. If the message type is request response, it has both in message and out message. If it is doesn't have request response, it only have in message. Okay, let us see. We have exchange ID, right? So this exchange ID is a constant value across the entire message flow in integration flow. So let me explain in somewhat more detail. So these are the various sequence of steps we can see in the design time, right? These are the various steps where we can use. Across all these steps we can see the only one exchange ID, that is exchange message ID. It is a the scope of this exchange ID is only inside the runtime 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 only, not pass it to the I think exchange ID properties parameters. This property and this is one container, header is one container. So message in message has certain values, right? Headers and body and properties contents are not the scope of the property parameters. Values are only in runtime, not passed to receiver systems. Okay, so by using content modifier we can modify the property parameters which are used, which suppose if you set or if you create any property variables and header variables in one of the step, we can use these values across all steps in the iflow. So in the middle we can also remove the values. Once you remove it, you could not use it. So once the variables are the header and property parameters are enabled, we can use in all the steps based on our requirement. So in this video what I am going to tell is I would like to highlight what exactly the exchange message. Okay, so in integration framework provides option to evaluate certain parameters at runtime, and the way allows you to define sophisticated ways to control message processing. There are two different kinds of such parameters. One is message header. E is transferred as a part of message header. When you use HTTP based receiver adapter, these parameters are converted into HTTP header and the way transferred to the receiver. Note: the data returned to the message header during the processing steps, for example in content modifier or a script step, will also be a part of outbound message addressed to receiver system, whereas properties will remain within the integration flow and will not be hand over to receiver. That means the parameter values whatever we set or create or in the properties section container will not be transferred to the receiver system. That we need to understand. But so that moreover, one more condition he mentioned, that is because of this it is important to consider that following header size restriction if you are using HTTP based receiver adapter. If the message header exceeds certain value, the receiver may not able to accept the inbound call. Suppose if you want to add more values in the container, suppose if you add more container values in the header values, that time that message may not be received by the receiver system because of a heavy size of the header. That's why we can use property instead of that one. So whatever we require, we can use those values in header, and the rest of the things we can put in the properties, and you can reuse. You can get and say we can get the values and set it at the end of the sending this message to receiver. So as per our convenience. But remember, header size must be restricted, depends upon the receiver system. The limiting value depends upon the characteristics of the receiver system. He also mentioned the same thing, but typically ranges in between the 4 and 16 KB. To overcome this, we can use subsequent content modifier step to delete all the header that are not supposed to be part of outbound message. So that's why he has provided two action parameters, right? One is create and one is delete. At the time of sending to receiver, then we can delete the parameter contents. Really good information, right? Next, exchange property. As long as a message is being processed, the data container referred to as exchange is available. This container is used to store additional data besides the message to be processed. The exchange can be seen as an abstraction of the message exchange processes as it is executed by the camel framework. Remember, the entire steps are executed on Apache Camel, but not like Java environment as we see in a PI, advanced adapter engine or adapter engine. Advanced adapter engine and adapter engine runs on the Java environment, but here the entire flow runs on Apache Camel engine. So when we use HTTP, sorry, where we are, property, right? Yeah. Exchange is identified uniquely by the exchange ID in the property area of the exchange. Additional data can be stored temporarily during the message processing. The data is available for the runtime during the whole duration of the message exchange. When you use HTTP based receiver adapter, exchange properties are not converted to the HTTP header that we already discussed. We can use the content modifier step to content of the message header and exchange property as well as message body. The important thing they have highlighted is we can modify the header parameters, property parameters, body parameters. We can add and modify, delete, whatever you want to do it. Everything we can do from the content modifier. So we can use the message header and exchange property to configure the various sophisticated ways to control the message processing. One option is usage of dynamic parameters. When configure integration flow using the modeling user interface, we can define placeholders. So in design, we see there are first thing is when we open the HCI web UI, we have three options are there. One is the first section is the second section is design, right? The first section is the predefined content is available there. So where there SAP has already provided some workaround to integrate various cloud applications. So we can reuse the existing one, no need of design from developer and simply configure the communication channel. For that purpose, we can define a placeholder. So in the communication channel, they have defined a placeholders though and attributes set for certain adapters or steps types. The value to be used actually for the message processing will dynamically set based on the content. For example, see in this case, what he did is the mail adapter we provided dynamically the subject name, right? That value is picked from the inbound message. So we are supposed to configure the subject in the communication channel, but we are getting that value from the inbound message and passing that value at real after at runtime only, not before, right? So thus we can use dynamic parameters also as a placeholders for the attributes of the certain adapters or steps types. So this way also we can we can mold the message whatever we require. So this thus the important thing is exchange message, comparison between the exchange message, HANA Cloud Integration exchange message and PA SOAP message. Okay. The second thing is the scope of the property parameters only in the runtime, not beside the beyond the runtime. I mean iFlow. So the property values will not reach to target system, and also there is sometimes the receivers may not accept if the header size is more than certain things, so that we are supposed to delete certain the content of the header whatever we don't require at the time of sending this message to receiver. That is important, and dynamically we can set parameters. We can reuse these parameters place by using placeholders as we seen in this example. So that is the important topic with the SAP HCI exchange messages. Thanks for watching this video.